Good evening again, and welcome to the 2017 Hoover Athletic Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And due to the fact that I've been told that we have a 7:30 kickoff tonight that a couple people up here are concerned about, they said, let's just go ahead and start. Let's not wait 3 more minutes until 7 o'clock. So we're going to go ahead and start this evening. But again, for those of you who are just joining us, my name is Tim Walker. I'm the athletic director here at Hoover High School, and it is truly a privilege to have you with us to celebrate tonight and to celebrate these 6 individuals who we will be inducting into the Hall of Fame. Tonight is a special opportunity for us to honor the past, but still to recognize its significance to the present. And we've tried to demonstrate that a little bit even this evening in the fact that we have 6 current student athletes who will be presenting each of the inductees tonight. And we recognize that much of the success of Hoover Athletics is built on a great foundation. These 6 individuals that are part of this class will join 32 other inductees that are already a part of the Hoover High School Athletic Hall of Fame. As I mentioned earlier, several of those inductees are with us tonight. And at this time, if you are a member of the Hall of Fame of Hoover High School, if you could please stand so that we can recognize all present members that are here, current members of the Hall of Fame. We also want to welcome guests, and again, as I mentioned earlier, many of you have traveled from several miles away, and so we want this to be a particularly special evening for you as you celebrate with your loved ones. This class of inductees is unique. Not only does the graduation year span over a half a century, but they represent the best of what it means to be a Hoover athlete. They have not only excelled during their time at Hoover, they have gone on to become an attorney, an eye doctor, educators, and businessmen. And for that, we all can be very proud. This is truly a distinguished class, and it's my privilege to be part of this evening. Each inductee will be presented this evening by a current athlete that is a member of one of the sports in which the inductee participated. And I know you did not come to hear me speak tonight, and so I'm going to make my comments fairly brief, and we will get right to the inductees. But our first presenter tonight is a starting wide receiver on the football team, and after missing part of last football season to an injury, he's returned to a great start to the 2017 season. He is also a member of our tennis team and an enthusiastic leader of the student section during basketball. To present our first inductee, please welcome Hoover senior Brady Nist.
Thank you. Dr. Greg Gray is a 1966 graduate of Hoover High School who played 4 years of football, basketball, and baseball. In football, Dr. Gray played quarterback throughout his entire high school career, starting for Coach Don Hurdler Sr. in both his junior and senior seasons. In basketball, Gray was moved up to varsity midway through his sophomore season, and he was named team captain and MVP in both his junior and senior seasons. Gray completed both of his 4 years at Hoover by starting on the baseball team, the final 3 years as shortstop. After Hoover, Dr. Gray continued his football career for 1 season at Rutgers University before transferring to the Ohio State University, where he graduated in 1970. Gray would go on to earn his medical degree from OSU in 1974 and serve as an eye doctor in Stark County for 38 years. Please join me in congratulating class of 2017 Hoover Hall of Fame inductee, Dr. Greg Gray.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Maria Gray. I am Greg's wife. I am so lucky to be his wife and fortunate to have been with him for many years. He has asked that I read this speech for him tonight. So in my voice, here are his words. I am honored and humbled to be inducted into the North Canton Hoover Athletic Hall of Fame. As we all know, life often has a way of making us reflect on the many moments that make up that life. For me, the opportunity to play high school sports in this community was a blessing. I will always feel lucky to have played for coaches who taught us the games, but more importantly, were models for soon-to-be young men. I was lucky to have played with so many outstanding athletes. So many of my Hoover sports teammates have been close, lifelong friends. I was lucky to have lived in a community that personally was kind to me and collectively, enthusiastically supported its athletic programs. Yes, I know firsthand why Lou Gehrig, in his iconic speech, felt he was a lucky man. The text of his speech was about respectfulness, friendship, and kindness, and I too am a lucky man to have participated in sports at Hoover High School. To the young athletes here tonight, these high school athletic years may be your most unencumbered. So cherish these years, honor your sport, work hard, so that when you're old like me, you can look back at that time in your life and smile.
I can tell you that over the last several months after we inducted or announced this class, it's been a real privilege for me to get to hear from so many people. He was my teammate, he was my friend, and in many cases he was my eye doctor too. And what a great testament to the impact that you've had on so many lives. Congratulations again, Dr. Gray. Our next presenter is the only underclassman to present an inductee tonight. As a freshman, he was a member of the varsity tennis team last year that won a Federal League championship. And the fact that he is presenting as a sophomore tonight should give you some indication as to how young and talented the tennis team is right now. In addition to tennis, this young man also runs cross country and is fresh off of a meet earlier today. Please welcome Hoover sophomore, Jacob Wood.
Mr. Scott Green is a 2002 graduate of Hoover High School, having been a 4-year letterman in both tennis and swimming. While Green was an accomplished swimmer during his time at Hoover, twice qualifying for the state meet, his most notable accolades came on the tennis court. Among his many accomplishments in tennis, Green was a 2-time first-team All-Ohio recipient and finished 2nd and 4th in the state during his junior and senior year respectively. Green was also named Federal League Player of the Year twice and Team MVP in all 4 seasons. After Hoover, Green continued his tennis career at The Ohio State University, where he was honored on numerous occasions by the Big Ten. During his time in Columbus, he won 3 national titles in doubles and back-to-back ITA indoor championships. Green graduated from Ohio State in 2006 with a degree in accounting. Please join me in congratulating Class of 2017 Hoover Hall of Fame inductee, Scott Green.
I was one of those people asking to get started for the football game, so I won't take too long here. But in all seriousness, I'd like to thank Tim Walker, Hoover Sideliners, and everyone who has spent time putting together this wonderful event this weekend. To have my name included in the same group as all these tremendous athletes and coaches is truly a humbling experience. I'd also like to thank my friends, family, and coaches that have been instrumental in not only my success, on the tennis court, but also the swimming pool, and most importantly, off it. I'd also like to mention my wife, Nazli. With you here and my son, 10-month-old son, Jackson, it makes this experience that much more meaningful. She won't tell you this, for all of you don't know her, but her high school tennis career was 150-0, so she kind of makes my record look a little average. And I'm not exaggerating. As many of you know, my older sister, Julie, and I were children of a Hoover High School teacher, Mrs. Green, or as I like to call her in my freshman geometry class and my senior statistics class, Mom. So it's needless to say that we were around the high school quite a bit. We knew all the teachers, and we were going to Hoover sporting events probably before I could even walk. We would go to the football games, we'd go to the basketball games, the baseball games, the softball games. We went to tennis matches, and we went to a lot of swim meets. One of my fondest memories of going to the swim meets was when we would be standing outside of the Brennan Natatorium. It was very early in the morning, it was cold, and we were waiting for them to open the doors so that we could get in and see our favorite Hoover swimmers compete in the state meet. It didn't really matter what sporting event it was that we were watching. I was always excited and proud when the Hoover athletes performed and succeeded well. To me, it all seemed very normal. We were rooting for our home team, the Hoover Vikings, a team that someday I hoped I'd be a part of. So when I walked into Hoover High School as a freshman in 1998, I was 5 foot, 3 inches tall, 100 pounds, soaking wet. As I started my first season in swimming in the fall, I earned the nickname Muscles. And the upperclassmen and a lot of parents referred to me as this, and as you can imagine, it wasn't because I was setting any records in the weight room. I think there were also a couple of times when my body fat literally did not register on Coach Morrison's body fat test. Needless to say, from a physical standpoint, I was not in a top athletic performer, if you will. But I did have a few things going for me. A strong work ethic, a competitive fire, and I was surrounded by tremendous people who were all looking for me to succeed. For my family, sports, and specifically tennis, was always a part of life. We were always playing tennis, watching tennis, talking about tennis, playing family mixed doubles, and then as I got older, traveling all across the country for tennis tournaments. My family sacrificed a great deal so that I could chase my athletic dreams, and the rewards have been priceless. So many of the people in my life today, and the experience I have, are directly related to the game of tennis in some shape or form. It really is amazing to step back and look at all of it. As a young kid, while I was able to learn from 2 parents who they did know a little bit something about tennis and swimming, I did have the advantage of having great coaches. At Hoover, I got to swim for the legendary Coach Morrison. It goes without saying that Mr. Morrison is a legend in Hoover swimming and in the swimming world. His knowledge and passion to help kids achieve their fullest potential is astounding. Mr. Morrison has a pure love for the sport that is unmatched. In my mind, it goes to show how great of a coach he is that he got this tennis player, a 5-month-a-year swimmer, to the state meet 2 times, swam a 146 200 free, and ended up 4th place my senior year on a relay. Now, I know for a fact that the Hoover swimming practices taught me what it meant to train hard. I know a lot of people talk about the sports they play and how they are the toughest, but I'll tell you here right now that swimming practice is no joke. The mental toughness I developed during those grueling practices are still paying dividends for me today. On the tennis side, Ernie Fernandez was my coach from the age of 12. While Ernie wasn't technically an employee of the North Kansas City schools, he had a major influence on me, as well as several other tennis players that have come through Hoover. Ernie and I had an immediate bond from the beginning, and we shared love for not only tennis, but the Cleveland Indians and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ernie developed my game at an early age, as if I was a 6'3" tennis player who liked to hit big serves and run to the net all the time. The positive was, there was nothing more that I liked than playing tennis and practicing my volleys. There were a little bit of problems, though. As I mentioned, I was closer to 5 feet than 6 feet tall. So there are definitely some challenging moments as a junior tennis player, as I saw a fair share of lobs go over my head. But lucky for me, my growth spurt came, and I'd have to say that everything worked out pretty well. Competing for Hoover on the tennis court was something that I always loved. Having played individual tournaments my entire life, competing for the benefit of the team was something that I truly cherished. The relationships I had with those teammates is what made my 4 seasons so enjoyable. We won a lot of matches, but most importantly, we always competed hard. We genuinely enjoyed being around each other, and while we all probably had a few goals that ultimately weren't achieved, we never had any regrets. Those teammates are still to this day, some of my best friends. As I take a step back and reflect on my 4 years at Hoover, I come to the realization that what made my time here special was much more than winning tennis matches. I have enough memories to last a lifetime, and I'm proud to be part of the Hoover tradition. Thanks again to everyone for this tremendous honor.
Well, it was interesting when I asked Jacob Wood, who just presented Scott, I said, do you know who Scott Green is? He said, no, but I've heard a ton of stories about him. Coach Schaefer never stops talking about him. So he certainly had an impact on our tennis program, and that did not just stop here at Hoover. Shortly after, again, announcing this class, I received an email from the head tennis coach at Ohio State who said, you have a very well-deserving inductee this year into the class, and had nothing but great things to say about Scott as well. Interestingly enough, too, Scott is the first Hoover Hall of Fame inductee to have graduated in the 2000s. And so he is our youngest inductee to be into the Hall of Fame. So congratulations. Our third presenter this evening has made his mark on Hoover athletics over the last 2 years. He's not only advanced to districts in wrestling as a junior, he also leads our defense in football at middle linebacker. This past summer, he represented Team Ohio at USA Wrestling in Fargo, North Dakota. And we're looking forward to big things again this year from not only his football season, but also the wrestling season. To present our third inductee, please welcome Hoover senior, Ben Smith.
Thank you. Coach Paul McDonald joined the staff of North Canton City Schools in 1959 and served in many coaching capacities until 1966. McDonald served as an assistant football coach and head track and field coach, while his greatest accomplishments came as leading the wrestling program. Under his watch, the Hoover wrestling team won the 1964 district championship and the 1965 state championship. From 1963 to 65, McDonald led the Vikings to a 26 consecutive dual meet victory and coached state champion Butch Packer. In 1965, Coach McDonald also started the North Canton Holiday Invitational, which still continues to this day as a premier wrestling tournament in the area. In 1966, Coach McDonald accepted a faculty position at Adrian College, where he coached and taught until 1996. Please join me in congratulating class of 2017 Hoover Hall of Fame inductee, Coach Paul McDonald.
Didn't think I was going to make it there, did you? Okay, where to start? First, I want to thank the Hall of Fame people that all involved in this special event, because this is something special to me. I'd like to say thank you to anybody who nominated me. I have very fond memories of my years at Hoover. Just to go back in time to tell you what it was like to start out as a first-year teacher. My first teaching assignment was 7th grade social studies at the middle school. We called it junior high school then. I also coached freshman football, wrestling, and track and field. And during the summer, I taught driver education, which was a real thrill. I estimate that I had at least 850 student-athlete interactions during my 7-year year, and I just sort of guessed on that. The first day I walked into my first coaching assignment for wrestling, I was pretty nervous walking into the classroom to meet this first Hoover varsity team. I found them to be a diverse, intelligent group who were also good athletes, and they had me. From that first group came an English teacher, a mayor, a Verizon executive, a Chevron oil executive, a social science teacher, and what every coach needs, a psychiatrist. I don't remember anybody telling them this back then, but I never wrestled in high school. We didn't have a program. In fact, I had never even seen a high school wrestling match. I spent 3 years on the wrestling team at Bowling Green learning the sport the very hard way. I was getting mopped up on the mat all the time. But it was a good learning experience. Well, Larry Perkins was the team captain of this first team, and he kept me pointed in the right direction. He was very intelligent. He was a heck of an athlete. Finished third in the state twice. Our first match of the year, we traveled to, I thought it was Beaver Local, but it's a different high school down in the state, southeast part of the state, and they were defending state champions. And we ended up tying the match 22-22. And the odd thing about that is that Walt Talarchuk was on that team, and he took over for me when I left Hoover. He was a great wrestler. Mike Smith was also a member of that first team. After he graduated from Hoover, he went into the Army and became an Army Ranger. He followed in his father's footsteps, who was a glider pilot on the D-Day invasion. When he left the service, he showed up in my office at Asian College and said he wanted to wrestle again. He was part of 3 Michigan Intercollegiate Athletic Association championship teams during his 4 years at Asian. He graduated with a degree of business and management and went on to move up the executive ladder at Verizon. We have kept in touch over the years. He's retired now and living in the Indianapolis area. Another one, a very close person from that team was Tom Dorosky, who was our first 175-pounder. And after graduating from Muskegon College, he came back to Hoover to teach social studies and become my assistant coach for a number of years. He married Mary Arnold, and after a few years moved to Anaheim, California. Tom's wife, Mary, was also in my first class at driver education. And we always talked about some of the thrills of those days. My wife and I made several trips to see them, and we spent some good times together. Unfortunately, when Mary called to tell us that Tom had died suddenly, I truly felt like I had lost a brother. This was a week or two before he was to receive the Teacher of the Year Award at Leora High School in Anaheim, California. We are still in contact with Mary, and she's coming to spend some time with us later this month. And I feel this is the best part of the Hoover legacy. The 1965 state championship team was, of course, very special in a lot of ways. We had good, hard workers from top to bottom. Everybody helped to push the 4 who qualified for the state meet. We had a busload of fans at Ohio State, but I don't think anybody was thinking about a state championship. Chip Cropley got into our first points, and that helped Stan Owens and Pat Wilden to dig down and score. We had the title wrapped up after Pat's final match. Butch Pappen kept on winning right through, and when When I asked him if he wanted to go into the locker room to escape the frenzy that was building, because he knew we'd already won, he said no. He just wanted to take in the atmosphere and be ready. Butch went on to put a cap on the day by becoming Hoover's first state champion. I have referenced the type of effort that was needed to achieve so much. Our 1966 team went undefeated in dual meets because they tapped into that type of effort. It has been great getting back to the roots of my teaching and coaching career. I doubt that I could have found a better community or school in which to make my start. My experiences at Hoover High School helped formulate my expectations and philosophies for the rest of my career. Thank you for this honor. This weekend has confirmed that once a Viking, always a Viking.
Coach, congratulations again. I know as you were talking there and rehearsing through so many young people that you recalled from your coaching days, I'm reminded of the Reverend Billy Graham, I think, was the man that said, a coach touches more lives in 1 year than most people will ever in their entire life. And certainly, as you heard Coach McDonald talk this evening, you can see the impact that he's had on so many. Even though he was only here for 6 or 7 years, he's always a Viking. And so we're thankful for that, and thankful for your impact, certainly on our people here. Let me just say before I move on, I feel terrible about this, but Butch Paquin, is he in the building tonight? Is he here? Okay, I didn't see. I'm not sure if he maybe paid the guy that put the program together, but somehow Butch's picture ended up on Coach McDonald's name. So it's Butch Paquin, old 1965 pro. But I got to be honest with you. You know, the thing about it is, Coach was only 29 years old when he coached his first state championship team. So we thought, hey, that looks pretty good. He looked just like Butch, and there wasn't much difference between Butch and Coach at that time. So anyway, my sincerest apologies. We'll get that fixed for Coach in his own rendition there. But our next presenter was a first-team all-conference performer last year while leading our softball team to the state semifinals. While that program has experienced tremendous success, we all recognize that each team's success is largely dependent on the leadership of that group. We could not be more excited to be having our next presenter back this year to lead Hoover softball to continued success. Please welcome Hoover senior Grace Sia.
Before I start, I would like to thank the athletic department, my coach, and anyone who allows me to have this opportunity tonight. So, thank you. Katie Miller is a 1999 graduate of Hoover High School, where she led the Vikings to 2 state championships as a dominant pitcher. Chain set numerous school and state records during her time as a Viking. She currently holds Hoover softball records for strikeouts in a season, shutouts in a season, and lowest ERA. Chain's 25 shutouts in 1 season is also a state softball record. Along with various league awards, Chain was twice named the Gatorade Ohio Player of the Year. Chain went on to continue her stellar career at The Ohio State University, where she was once again dominant. Chain left Ohio State holding 7 different pitching records, including records for strikeouts and shutouts, and she still holds the record for most consecutive wins, 15. Chain went on to graduate from Ohio State with a degree in special education. So please join me in congratulating class of 2017 Hoover Hall of Fame inductee, Katie Chain.
The first person I want to thank is the pilot who was
generous enough to fly us out of the Hurricane Irma situation in Florida. Very happy to have made it here tonight. I also want to thank the Hall of Fame committee for choosing to put me in. Very appreciative of the honor. I grew up with an extremely active family, always outside, always doing something. My mom was a gym teacher, so we didn't do a lot inside. It was always go outside and play. My brother and sister both played baseball and softball. They played many sports. Those stick out in my head, is going to a lot of games and watching. The most significant point in watching my sister play, we passed it tonight on our way here, was at the Greentown Athletic Club. I remember seeing Aaron Carey pitching and saying, I want to do that. So I think I went to the outfield with my dad. We tried a few times, and somehow that got back to, my mom talked to Mrs. Goodpasture, who she worked with, and somehow I got hooked up with Mr. Goodpasture, which was probably one of the most lucky things that happened for me. Because he was with me from day one, coaching me along the way. It wasn't always pretty, but he was always there. And at that point, I knew I wanted to pursue softball. When first time I threw my arm around in a circle. So when I started working with Mr. Goodpasture, I'll never forget, he said, don't worry about throwing strikes, just throw as fast as you can. I didn't mind that. I just whipped it around and went as fast as I could. I think my dad, probably catching me, didn't like that all the time. And I know the batters I faced when I was young didn't like that either. I hit quite a few people there in the early days. I think I finally learned to throw a strike when I was 12, and that's when I really started to trust Mr. Goodpasture, because he told me that would happen. And then things started to click, and then things started to get really fun. I was lucky to have him as my coach both in the summer, and then I knew that he would be, at the time, the pitching coach at Hoover. So when I was a freshman at Hoover, I was really lucky to be on the varsity team with Coach Height as the head coach and Coach Goodpasture as the assistant, which those two together were an amazing combination, motivating and trusted us and great support. I was following a lot of really great pitchers, including both Sharon and Holly, Mr. Goodpasture's daughters, and Aaron Carey, who was the one who kind of inspired me from the get-go. I also watched Aaron Carey, especially because of my sister, was the same year as her, and I got to watch my sister play for Hoover for 4 years. I was unlucky to not get to play with her at all because of our age difference, but instead of that, I was so happy to wear her same number, which now her daughter also wears. So my experience playing for a Hoover sports team, probably similar to a lot of these amazing athletes and all of you who've been in before. Great school pride, really great support throughout the community. You know, we all hate Jackson, which I had to throw that in there for my Uncle Tom. He was the principal at Jackson, so it was always a little more fun rivalry over there. North Canton just has a great sense of pride in general for everything that we do, especially the sports teams, which really made playing sports here amazing. Adding the 2 state championships and the other honors was the cherry on top of all of the support from family, from the community, from teachers, from everyone. And even the students, I won't never forget in the state championship game, looking over in the 11th, 12th inning and seeing the whole student section putting up Ks and cheering us all on, and you know, that's what we really needed. You know, every little bit of support really helped. So thanks to trusting Mr. Goodpasture so many years ago, I went from throwing 7 strikes in a whole game to only walking 7 in my entire season by the time I graduated. So that trust went a really, really long way. After an amazing 4 years at Hoover, I went on to play at Ohio State for another amazing 4 years. I pitched all 4 years there and graduated with some honors and some records. But since then, softball has given me so much more, and the foundation from Hoover and North Canton has stayed with me the whole way. I went on to go over to England to coach and play. I had the opportunity to coach the University of Akron, I took some time off to teach and have a family, and now I'm back at it, giving lessons of my own, helping girls in Central Ohio. My dad actually built a softball infield in his yard, which is great for my kids and our family, and that's where I give lessons, so my kids get the opportunity to grow up around the sport and sports in general and being outside. I have 3 daughters that will hopefully get to take advantage of that. One played this last summer. Nora's waving over there. But every honor and award that I had wouldn't have been possible without those surrounding me. And that includes, every perfect game I had wouldn't have happened without the team behind me making great plays, and there's Anna too. Hi, sweetie. A good example of the great team I had behind me was the Ella game at regionals my senior year. It was not a good game for me. I was sick that game, and just really bad game. Gave up 4 runs in the first inning, which I don't think happened the entire year. Had a little bit of a freak out moment in our head, and the team came behind, and they picked up at the bats. We ended up scoring 9 runs and came back to win, which then eventually took us to our 2nd state championship. Of course, the whole season and my whole career, the teammates backed me up and really supported me there. And no one can forget the championship game in '99 against Pickerington. No way could you do 12 innings and win without an amazing team behind you. And every single person contributed, even down to the pinch runner or the girls that didn't get in the game. The support and the cheering on that they did was really, really important. There's so many more people to thank. First and foremost is God for giving me the ability and the passion to work hard. Next would be my parents, who suffered through all the hit batters and throws over the backstop, and I remember pitching in our backyard. My dad would kneel down and I'd throw the bucket, they'd all go over his head, I'd go chase them, and he had the perfect amount of support and drive. So I was really lucky for that. And then my mom, being a coach for volleyball, knew the right amount of support to give and still push hard to know where I needed to be. My dad never sugarcoated anything. If a pitch didn't work, he let me know. But if a pitch worked, I would know it too. I knew he wouldn't sit back there and just tell me everything was pretty when it wasn't. He'll know, and he would always go like this when a pitch was bad, and I still use that with the girls I work with. And I knew I could always go to my mom to be right by my side, whatever I needed with the support there. My brother and sister, who came to so many games, dealt with all my travel, my practice schedule. I know they probably didn't have fun, especially in the beginning. I hope they enjoyed it at least by the end. They set an example for me to follow, to work hard and enjoy what I was doing. My extended family, who you can tell they're all here tonight, aunts and uncles and cousins and grandparents, making it up, they're all waving over there. So many games that they made it to. I mean, I'm so lucky to have cousins who went out of their way to show me that support. It had to be especially difficult for my uncle to support me at Hoover when he was the principal over at Jackson, watching us beat his team. Except for the one time, just once. And of course, my coach is Mr. Goodpasture and Mr. Height. There's not enough I can say. I also have to thank everyone who caught for me, Mr. Height being one of those. It was hard. It's hard to find someone to catch me for practices, and out of a lot of sports, pitching is something that you can't do without somebody back there catching. So my dad, who, I don't know how many pitches you caught over the years, Mr. Height, who did all that. I even had baseball players that would come and catch me sometimes. I had an amazing catcher in Heidi Albrecht, who was inducted a few years ago, but as most of you know, she was in 4 varsity sports for 4 years, so her finding time was quite difficult, so filling in for my dad and Mr. Height and all the other people was really helpful. And I have the huge thank you to all my teammates, and then the fans, between the students and the teachers, and there was a great group of men. George Hamilton lived right by Price Park. He would come over and give us drinks, even at practice, and support us. I think he was at almost every game. He came to a lot of Ohio State games. Randy Santangelo really led up the group of men to support us. They were at every game, standing along that third base side. It wasn't a game unless they were all there. Way too many people to mention. And I have to thank my husband and my daughters who have let me continue my love of softball. My daughter just played this summer for the first time, so really exciting to watch her learn and love the game as much as I do. So thank you.
When you hear someone like that talk about 3 daughters, it just brought to mind, Katie, that there's a house next to me that has an infield, an outfield, and a home run fence in their backyard, so if you would like to buy it, it's for sale. We'll get her back to North Canton as soon as we can. But no, that's great. And you know, it's interesting, when last year we had a couple of the Good Pasture girls got inducted, and we talked about how programs are built, and you don't get too far down the line with talking about the excellence of Hoover softball without Katie Chain's name coming up. And you walk down our hallways and you see our record boards, and her name is still on the record boards. And that's for a reason. So congratulations again, Katie, well deserved. Our next presenter will not only lead with his bat this spring, he'll once again anchor the middle of the infield for Hoover baseball. Last year he was named first team All-Federal League as a junior, and he will return for his senior year at shortstop. When he's not on the field, he can usually be found in the front row of the student section, supporting his fellow Vikings. And word on the street is he can play catcher even better than his dad, who was just mentioned. So please welcome Hoover senior Jordan Height.
Thank you. Mr. Jack Sponseller, who was born and raised in North Canton, is a 1949 graduate of North Canton High School. Jack was a 3-sport athlete in North Canton, playing football, basketball, and baseball. Sponseller lettered 2 years in football, being named captain of the 1948 team and honorable mention All-Star County in 1948. In basketball, Jack was the leading scorer of the 48-49 North Canton High School team that finished as the state semifinalist in Class B. His high school baseball career included earning 3 varsity letters and pitching 2 no-hitters. Sponseller would go on to attend Mount Union, where he lettered 3 times in both football and baseball. Upon graduation from Mount Union, Jack served 2 years in the United States Army before returning to Stark County, where he joined the family business, Carl Sponseller and Sons. Please join me in congratulating class of 2017 Hoover Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Jack Sponseller.
Good evening. I want to thank the committee for all the hard work they do in making these selections. And I want to start off by saying that I was born and raised in North Canton. I was fortunate. Anybody in those days that grew up after World War II can appreciate that. North Canton had so much to offer for a small community. You had the community building, which fostered our basketball program. We had the Hoover Company, who sponsored a lot of different types of activities that the young people could participate in. As far as people I played with who I think should be recognized, and starting with football, when I was a sophomore, we had a man by the name of Don Wendell, who played tackle and was an outstanding athlete as far as basketball and baseball. And he was my catcher my sophomore year pitching. And I'll tell you a quick story about Don Wendell. He was a big individual, about 6'3", about 230, 240. And we're playing Kent State High School up at Kent. And Don's catching, I'm pitching. And we have an umpire who's about that high. And game goes along, we win the game, and I'm standing there talking to Wendell after the game. The umpire walks up to him and says, "You know what? You called one hell of a game." The guy never saw a pitch. And Wendell was sharp enough that he made sure he didn't see him. But we get into the basketball program. When I participated in that, and we, again, were fortunate enough to go to Columbus. I played with a fellow by the name of George Hamilton, who went in the Hall of Fame last year. And George was a tremendous basketball player, great teammate, and a great team player. And I know George is here this evening, and I just wanted to say thank you. As far as baseball goes, I played with some pretty good guys, and we went to the, I believe it was the regional finals, and you know who beat us? Jackson. And we'd beat them during the season, but they come back and knocked us off, but we had a good shot at going to the state that year. And the football program, I played in 47 and 48. 47, that was the first year the stadium opened up. And I was fortunate enough to play in the first game that was played under the lights at Memorial Stadium. Then we beat Central Catholic, by the way. As far as baseball goes, we played most of our games at Whitwer Park, which was behind the Hoover Company on East Maple Street, where the factory building is built now. And that was all a community park with a ball field. And we played all our baseball games there until finally my senior year, my junior or senior year, the stadium was completed and the baseball part of it was completed for 49. The season of 49, they put the lights on it. And the field was one of the only lighted baseball fields in Stark County. And we played the first high school game under the lights that was played out there. And by the way, we beat McKinley 12-0. So anyway, I certainly appreciate this award, and I will cherish it forever. And I just, at this time, I'd like my family to stand up, because I know there's several of them here. Come on, stand up. My wife Barb's in the front row, and she's been prompting me the whole time, if you wonder how I remembered all this stuff. Well, again, thanks to all the enshrinees and all the young men and women that helped them, and I appreciate being here, and good luck to everybody. Thank you.
fun night when Coach Height actually had Mr. Sponseller out to throw out the first pitch back in the spring when we had just figured out who the inductees would be for this year. And while I had to make phone calls to most of the inductees, I had an opportunity to walk out to the field and to shake his hand and to tell him in person that he was going to be inducted this year. And as the tears welled up in his eyes, you could see just how much Hoover High School meant to him and how much being a part of this Hall of Fame meant to him, and that was a special time. Shortly thereafter, he said, "But you do know, Mr. Walker," he said, "my dad used to say I played 4 sports, not 3. Football, basketball, baseball, and chasing girls." But we left that off the resume for tonight. Well, in selecting our final presenter this evening, I had the difficult task of selecting someone to present an inductee who played offensive line and then went on to law school. Generally, we're happy if offensive linemen just know whether they're pulling right or left. However, we found the perfect man as our presenter for our final inductee. This young man not only starts on the offensive line, he's also the senior class president at Hoover this year, and he plans to pursue a degree in political science in college. Please join me in welcoming Hoover senior Gary Gates.
Thank you. Mr. Bill Trumpeter is a 1969 graduate of Hoover High School, where he was a 3-sport athlete. Trumpeter earned 3 letters in both wrestling and baseball, but his greatest success was on the football field. Bill started on the offensive line as a sophomore and continued to be a key part of the offensive line for the remainder of his career, recording 30 consecutive starts. He also played defensive line and linebacker, kicked off, and played on all special teams. In 1967, Trumpeter was named to the repository's independent Gridiron All-Star team, and his senior year he was named Best Offensive Lineman. Bill was a co-captain and most valuable player of the football team in 1968, which won the Federal League Championship. He was also recognized with All-County, All-District, and Honorable Mention All-State awards. Trumpeter continued his education at Wittenberg University, where he lettered as a freshman on the 1969 College Division National Championship team. Following Wittenberg, Bill earned a law degree from the University of Toledo College of Law and practiced in Ohio and Tennessee until his retirement. Please join me in congratulating Class of 2017 Hoover Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Bill Trumpeter.
My wife told me to keep this short, so I will. I am truly honored to be inducted in the North Canton Hoover High School Athletic Hall of Fame, and I want to congratulate my fellow inductees. It is very hard to believe that next year will be the 50th anniversary of the North Canton Hoover High School football team's first Federal League Championship. Hank Scola is back here. Hank, good to see you. Thanks for coming. Hank Scola and I co-captained that team, and it was a great experience. Chops, Mark Peters was on that team. See him in attendance. I saw Tom Van Rankin earlier. He didn't want to wait around to hear me ramble, so he went home with Susie. I want to thank all my teammates, though. None of it would have occurred without your effort and support. In particular, I want to thank Denny Grady. He's my man. He nominated me for this honor. It probably wouldn't have happened without him. I have a feeling Randy Santangelo had a part in me being here tonight, too. So I say thank you, guys. I also want to thank all the coaches who taught us the game and demanded that we perform to the best of our abilities and to represent our school honorably. I especially want to acknowledge 2 coaches in my career. The first is the late Dick Logan. He was my coach in South End. I played for him when I was 10, 11, and 12. In my 12-year-old season, we beat Greentown, and again, Hank Scola and his dad and his teammates put together an undefeated, untied season. I know Dick had that picture of our team at his shop for many, many years. It may still be there. And I especially want to thank and acknowledge the late Don Hertler. I believe he changed the game of football in Stark County. I also want to acknowledge and thank the many great teachers I had at Hoover. I moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee in 1979 and came to realize what a blessing it is to have the quality public education I had here in North Canton. I want to say thank you to my mom and dad who encouraged and supported me in my athletics and education. I'm happy to have my mom here tonight. My brother's sitting here with her, Ed. Thank you for your love and support. My dad passed away 2 years ago. We really missed him. I am also grateful to my wife, Debbie, my sons, Stephen and Kevin, my beautiful daughter-in-laws, Catherine and Nebby, and my grandchildren, Will and Bayla. If you were at the game last night, you saw them on the field with me. I'm grateful that they can share this honor with me tonight. Thank you all for the love and happiness you bring me. Thank you. Go Vikings. Let's go watch the Bucks.
What a night. I hope you had a minute to take in a little bit of what you heard tonight and didn't all just fly by too quickly. We had people up here acting like winning Big Ten championships, playing in collegiate national championships at Division III, winning state championships, like that's no big deal. That doesn't happen everywhere, folks. And this is a pretty special group of people and a great group. I know last night as I spoke with Mr. Trumpeter after the game or after the halftime festivities, he said, I hope it's okay that my grandkids went out there. I said, oh, that's great, we didn't mind at all. He goes, well, actually it doesn't really matter, I would have taken them anyway. I said, well, that's good, because this is all about you guys. This is all about them. But hey, because it's all about them, one more time, the 6 inductees, let's congratulate them. Just a couple quick housekeeping items and then we'll turn you loose tonight. I know some of you are ready to get out, but we have a bunch of mums that we bought that are at the centerpieces and they're sitting out on the table as you exit the door tonight. Feel free to take those with you, please. If you can use those or if you like some of those, please do that. And then also the sideliners have been gracious to arrange for a room over at Walter's Twin Tavern, which is only about a mile down the street on Apple Grove, just a little bit west on Apple Grove from Main Street there. So just right here in North Canton. It's a new restaurant. The Twin Tavern is, and they have a place there for family and friends if you want to gather and spend some more time together. The ball games will be on there too, but you can gather and spend some more time and get to catch up. I'm so appreciative of all of you for attending tonight and for making this such a special night. And congratulations once again, class of 2017. Thank you for being here. You're dismissed.